I provided to each of you a proposed policy for the management of the unassigned cash that is on hand that we have been maintaining there since the sale of Cedar Haven. Commissioner Litz made a comment at the budget introduction back on December 1st that without an accounting or a explanation of what those funds are for, and I think you said at the time, Commissioner, that money ought to be returned then if it doesn't have a stated purpose. So I accessed a number of resources. I did a little bit of research and spoke with Jay Wenger, our financial consultant as well, and really zeroed in on the GFOA, which is the Governmental Finance Officers Association, which sets a lot of the standards as an association. And many counties use their policies as a framework to develop their own, and kind of boiled that down into a two-paragraph policy here that would address the unassigned funds as part of the unrestricted fund balance. Whenever the auditor presents his audit report to you, there's always a representation of the unrestricted fund balance. That unrestricted fund balance is made up of a number of things, one of which is the unassigned cash. Others are things like assets that aren't necessarily liquid, but they're unrestricted. They could be liquidated, or receivables or payrolls that have been set aside where they are an asset, but they are spoken for, so they're they're encumbered. The unassigned cash is just that, cash to be used for any purpose, and it's being held in liquid form. So I provided this to you. I'll read through it. If you choose to consider and approve that today, then that will become policy of the county, and it will effectively turn the maintenance of that cash into a formula so that it's maintained at a known desired level. So the policy I proposed is, it is the desire of the Lebanon County Board of Commissioners to establish a policy defining the purpose and level of unassigned funds in the unrestricted general fund balance to be maintained in accordance with best practices, to meet cash flow requirements, to eliminate the need to borrow temporary funds, to maintain solvency due to cuts or delays in state aid and/or federal grants, or to respond to natural and man-made disasters. Therefore, it shall be the policy of the Lebanon County Commissioners to maintain an unassigned fund balance in the general fund of no less than 2 months of regular general fund operating expenditures. That 2 months is what I gleaned from the GFOA standard. In our case, on a $45 million budget, 2 months of expenditures amounts to about $7.4 million to have on hand. Having allocated $1 million of that cash 2 months ago to pay down some of the principal, if you recall, when you refunded and refinanced the 2011 bond into a 2016 bond, having paid that $1 million took our cash on hand down to $7.1 million right now. There's some interest coming from CDs that the treasurer has invested some of that cash in, which will add to that balance. And I'm also aware that we will be getting another refund from Benecon for our health insurance, some of which can be allocated to bring that right to the level, and that can be done early in 2017. And as you'll recall, we've also created a capital improvement fund, so the remainder of that refund can go into the capital improvement fund. So really, when that refund comes in, you could bring the unassigned cash up to this formula level, and the rest can go into the capital improvement fund, which is kind of maintaining both of those right where the way they ought to be. So that's my proposal. I'd recommend this policy to be adopted and on the books.
Entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we adopt the reserve fund policy as written.
I'll second it so we can vote on it, but I would like to make a statement.
Certainly.
I really appreciate Jamie's efforts. We've taken some baby steps with the Capital Improvement Fund and theoretically an unrestricted general fund account. but I see it as not being part of a strategic plan. We have never done a strategic plan. This money did not come from taxes collected. This came from the sale of Cedar Haven. This money is left over from that sale, and in my humble opinion, it should be returned to the people. And I stand by that. And it's no reflection on the work you've done. I think it's stellar, but I also think we need a strategic plan that would identify these sorts of things. We're doing it too piecemeal. The accountant had several things. I think there's still one or two recommendations that have not been done. And until we officially explore and adopt a strategic plan, I think we shouldn't be piecemealing things together. It's like a patchwork instead of a whole quilt.
Any other comments?
I had a discussion like this with Jamie, with the expectations, Commissioner Litz, of what your response to this might be. And what I suggested was that if you're looking for a comprehensive financial plan, that you look at this as a first step, and you certainly propose other issues. And Jamie said, like, there's an investment, the auditor raised that question, that we take these one at a time, adopt them, and put them together into a a binder like Mitt Romney had, a couple of years ago, to keep these in, and we'll ultimately have what you're looking for. I'm not sure that the strategic plan is the terminology that you're looking for. A strategic plan for the county has to do with a whole lot more things than financial. But
Exactly.
a financial plan, I think we've gone down that road. Some of it perhaps needs to be committed to writing, but I think we have a sound financial plan, and I think this is a good piece of it. So I would ask for your support in this, as it's a step into the direction that you want to head. So.
And I appreciate the civility with which you asked. It hasn't changed my mind, unfortunately, because I see the need for a full strategic plan. One part of that is the financial element.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same signs.
I'm opposed, yeah.
It's a split vote, 2-1 in favor of the motion.
Okay, the budget for 2017 was, as I said, initially adopted on December 1st, put on display for the required 20 days, and is now ripe for your consideration for final approval. There were two changes of note that were made to the budget since then, one being an additional $15,000 for the Ag Extension Office that was allocated for staff, and just this morning the change to the annual required contribution for the pension fund of an additional $32,308 for the COLA for 2017. So that brings the total budget to $74,571,893. The general fund standing alone would be $44,983,617. You have general fund revenues budgeted of $45,015,213, which would leave this budget with a surplus of $32,308 going into 2017. So at this point, I recommend the adoption of this, which would maintain the general fund millage rate at 3.2925, same as 2016.
Okay, seek a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the budget as presented and discussed. You're up, Commissioner.
I'll just make sure there was no second. I'll second the motion, since we have to have a budget. Any comment or question? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
We have a split vote on the balanced budget with no tax increase. 2-1 in favor. We have a budget. Thank you.
At this point, John Vitsky's out there, so I'll bring him in for his items, and then I've got a couple more.
That would be nice, Jim.